What if I told you, in Iran, women are banned from going to soccer games?
Mom, take the ball. I love you.
For 43 years, Iranian women have fought back.
Police pushed us.
Troops.
This is their story.
The joy was forbidden.
What is the meaning of that?
That is how they control you.
I'm Shimol Yai. Listen to the new 30 for 30 podcast, Pink Card. Available now.
This holiday season, give yourself the gift of listening to all 6 episodes of Being Golden. Get caught up in the hilarious, heartwarming, and complex lives of 4 unique seniors as they navigate all of life's triumphs, struggles, and even heartbreaks. From chasing new passions to making new connections, there's a whole lot to love about this audio reality series. Plus, the reunion episode is out now, and there's some drama. Being Golden is available wherever you get your podcasts.
Lemonada.
How did I meet my smoke show of a husband? Great question. I would love to tell you. Jonas and I both lived in Australia at the same time, and we actually went to the same school, but we went to different campuses. I went to the city campus, and Jonas was at a campus deep in the suburbs. Because our school was so large, the students at each campus hardly ever interacted with each other, except for like the first week of each semester when we would have combined sessions and they were called intensives. We managed to make it like 2 years into our degree before we had a single conversation. I happened to be in the suburbs one week for a band rehearsal that was beyond my usual biannual trip to the Hills campus. I was running late, so in a rush, I left my dinner on the train, the same dinner that made me miss my first train. For some reason, I grossly underestimate how long it takes me to make a meal, like a simple meal even. So before heading straight to campus, I ran to the grocery store across the street. My friend met me there, and she just kept me company while I grabbed a few things. I headed straight to the meat counter. The thing about me is if I don't know what to eat, or if I don't have time to have an opinion about what I'm eating, I will pick lunch meat every single time. It's really cheap, and you can get as much or as little of it as you want if you get it from the deli. The downside is most people will just ask you why you are eating a bag of lunch meat from the deli. Small price to pay for convenience, honestly. So as I was trying to get the attention of the worker behind the meat counter, I hear my friends start to say hello to a couple students that also walk up to the deli. Who knew this was such a hot place for a Tuesday night? As I pay half of my attention to the small talk happening between my friend and her friends right beside me, I am also paying the other half to maintaining my place in line so that I can secure my roast beef and then immediately fill my stomach with it. I hear my friend Megan say, "I'm so sorry, how rude of me, this is Elyse." I turn towards the conversation so I can shake the hand that's being extended towards me, and the person attached to the hand introduces himself. "Hi, I'm Jonas." As I shake his hand, he makes direct eye contact with me, and I suddenly feel more aware of my dinner choice than I would like to in that moment. "Hi, Jonas. My name's Elyse. Nice to meet you." The first thing I noticed about him, beyond the fact that he was very good at eye contact, was that he was wearing house clothes. This is a category of clothing I have since come to realize is not a universal term. I just thought everybody had specific and more comfortable clothes that they immediately changed into when getting home, regardless of how long they would be home, and they were not pajamas. But as it turns out, I was incorrect in this understanding. But for some reason, the fact that Jonas looked so comfortable standing there, I don't know, it made me feel comfortable talking to him, like he was my kind of person. Now, was he absolutely gorgeous? Of course, yeah. But I was dating someone at the time, and so that line of thinking just wasn't really available to me in my brain at the moment. The 4 of us all stood there, and we talked for like a solid 10 minutes while we were waiting for the person behind the meat counter to take our orders. "What are you getting?" I asked, just trying to make conversation. "Some salami for pasta salad. What are you getting?" Some sliced roast beef for dinner." "Sounds good," Jonas said. The butcher finally walked over to all 4 of us and saved me from my pathetic attempt at small talk, and I had to place my order in front of everyone. So I had no choice but to confidently say, "I will take a kilo of roast beef sliced however is convenient for you. It's all going in the same place. Please." While Jonas's order was being taken, Megan reminded me that we were very late to rehearsal still, and we definitely needed to sprint across the street as soon as possible. So I waved to Jonas with my hand full of deli meat, and I said, "It's so great to meet you." Pun intended. I raced out of the grocery store as fast as I possibly could. And Jonas later told me that his friend leaned into him after our conversation and said, "Geez, why don't you marry her already?" And he said, "Maybe I will." The next time we talked was 8 months after that. I was now very single, but not for very long. Thank you. Okay, actually, can you just pretend that you're listening to a fully complete theme song here? I got really in my head, and I tried to make it perfect, and I couldn't. So this is going to be the theme song right here. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Funny 'Cause It's True. I'm Elyse Myers. This week, I'm talking to Kaitlyn Bristowe, who is an entrepreneur, television personality, podcast host, and the lead of the 11th season of The Bachelorette. Kaitlyn is also a great friend of mine and was the very, very, very first episode of this podcast that I ever recorded. We talk about our first loves, changes in relationships, and podcasting. So 2 things that are funny because they're true. Number 1, this was the very first interview that I conducted for this podcast, and I was so nervous that I had a bottle of champagne that the Bachelor show had sent me like a few months prior, that I opened it and had a glass before our conversation, which actually feels so fitting because Kaitlyn is from the Bachelor world. It made sense. And number 2, the first time that Kaitlyn and I ever spoke to each other was when I was a guest on her podcast a year ago. And she shared with me right at the start of our interview that the night before she had had a little bit of a breakdown, and she was grateful that I was the person on the other end of that call that day. And then fast forward a year later, she's the first guest on my podcast, and I had just brought myself up off my porch from a mental breakdown before recording this first episode of the podcast. And I just remember looking at her and saying, "I'm so grateful it's you on the other end of this interview." And in the moment, I just didn't realize how much of a full circle conversation that really was, which is really cool. So with that, let's get into the interview. Kaitlyn.
Hi.
How are you? What have you been doing? I want to hear where in the world you're home, right?
I'm actually weirdly home. I'm never home, but I'm home right now and for a little chunk of time, but I'm like soaking in all of the dog cuddles.
Okay, so today I thought it'd be really fun to talk to you about like first loves, unrequited love, all of the love. Ooh, and okay. I just want to start off with one question. Like, what was your first love? How old were you? Tell me all of the things.
So my first love was when I was, oh my gosh, probably 15, maybe 14. And I remember my sister would drive this guy home from school and he would yell random things out the window. And he was like so funny and really, really, really cute. And I was like, I'm too young for him. I like had braces and he was older. And it was the first time I was like, wow, I think I could fall in love with a human being. And I thought he was just the greatest, but he turned out to be the worst. He was so awful to me. And
wait, I need to know so much more. What made him like the worst person on the planet?
We were like so in love, and we were together for probably like 4 years.
Oh, you were together?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay. So we fell in love. We started dating.
Okay, so you know when you're supposed to be serious and you're supposed to be focusing on something very important, like a presentation or anything you're not supposed to be laughing during, but you're doing it with a friend? That is this conversation here. Am I asking for any details? No. Do I know the details? Nope, absolutely not. So she's just giving me information and I'm like, perfect, that's all I need to know. Moving on. Listening back, it's making me laugh so hard.
He was so great, and we did everything together. My family loved him, and he would like wake up early and go to dance competitions with me and like support, and was great. And then just after time, I realized like sometimes he wouldn't call me at night, or like he wouldn't show up to school the next day, and I'd be
Perfect.
like, what is happening? Okay, so here's what would happen. He was in musical theater, so he would come back to school, and I'd be like, he's drunk. Like, he went somewhere and drank, and now he has to perform at this musical theater. And he was in the musical Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and he had on a vest, and he was drunk. And under that vest, which I mean, a vest is showing your bare chest. Stripper names written all over, signed on his chest. And I was like, that's my boyfriend.
Wait.
Okay.
How old was he? Like 16?
Yes, he had a fake ID. And there's this strip club at a truck stop in Leduc where I grew up called Airways. The guys would always go.
Okay. I don't even know how to start this. I'm actually pretty sure this is a storyline in Gossip Girl. I think this guy is actually Chuck Bass. Are you writing like a screenplay about this? Because I really feel like you should. And this was your first love. This was like, I would marry you. Like as a kid, you're like, this is it. Do you think that like when you were in love with people, you were like crushing on people, do you think that you were the kind of person that like, you were like, I take you as you are, I give you everything. Like what kind of person were you in a relationship like that?
Gosh, well, at the ripe old age of 14, no, at this time, like let's call me 16 at this point.
Oh my God. At 16, I was chatting on AOL Instant Messenger and I was seeing how many cheese balls I could fit in my mouth at one time without gunking up my braces.
So I think I was like, well, this is who he is. And I fell in love with him and he was crazy. So this is just him being crazy. But like, I knew I wasn't supposed to hurt like that. Like I knew that relationships weren't supposed to feel like that.
Yeah.
But I loved him so much that I was like, is this just what it is? Like, is this just something you have to deal with when you're in love? Is like, maybe the other person is terrible because I can't help the way I feel. And this is how I feel. I love him.
When you're 16, you're not married. Like any red flag should be like, this is done. We're done now. But you don't do that.
No, your brain like isn't developed enough yet to even understand. And I feel like our parents' generation also like was okay to ignore the red flags and not dive deep into like the psychological side of things and what that could mean for your future. So like they were like, oh, he's just being a teenager. And like, you know, they kind of had the blindfolders on too. Like they loved him. They thought he was great.
I think that because for my family, there was this like idea that like you're dating to marry, and it put so much pressure on the person that you were dating and also you. So like, I think for me, that's where the red flag blindness came from. And I started making excuses for people.
Totally.
Like long before I should have. Like, why would you give that give and take in a dating relationship when you're so young? But we just are like, this is it. This is the best I'm going to get. This is what you do, you know? Labor of love. Like, look past it.
It sadly like starts insecurities so young because you're like, is this what I deserve? Because if this is who I love and he loves me and this is the way I'm being treated, is this the kind of love I deserve? Like,
dude, So your first love, 14, 15, all the teens, not a great situation. So the first person I ended up like, I never even dated him, but I was like, I love you. And he like destroyed me. Okay, destroyed, that's a little extreme, but you know, affected me forever in all of my future relationships moving forward and all of my self-confidence that I did or did not have. Yeah, definitely. Like that idea of like, I have to make all these concessions in my brain for this person. It's so funny explaining like we never actually dated because you know those people that your heart is like so open and like, and you just like envelop their whole body with your heart. Like, do you know what I mean? That was this person and we never dated. And he was this person that I was like, this is going to be my husband. He doesn't actually even like me back, but he keeps me around and he's like so kind. Like, you know those people that are so kind in front of other people that you're like, see, this is what I know him as. But then in private, they're a completely different person. And you're like, where did the person that was just at lunch? Like, where is that guy?
Yeah, and who's the real one?
Yeah. And so you think the good one, you want to believe the good one is the one that they are, right? And then the person that's a jerk is like, oh, he's tired. Or like, oh, he's just like had enough people for the day. And they end up just like destroying you.
Not to like quote the Kardashians, but I'm going to.
Oh, please quote the Kardashians. I love the Kardashians, like in a non-ironic way.
Yeah, no, I love them so much.
Thank you. Okay, great.
And Chloe said, why do we keep making excuses for these people? And I'm like, that is so true. I've done that my whole life too. Like, why am I making excuses for people when they're just like terrible people?
Taking a break, and we'll be right back. People like to ask me about my strategies and goals for myself when it comes to my own mental health. Fun fact, I like to actually walk while I work. I've found that when my body is in motion, my brain stays focused. So I built myself a treadmill desk a few years ago, and I've used it every day since. We're used to managing and figuring things out on our own, including our own mental health. But what happens when our tools, whether it's meditation, doing deep dives on TikTok, or your homemade treadmill desk, what if they're not enough? Hers offers access to mental health care that can support you in your day-to-day. At forhers.com, you can get access to healthcare providers who are available for your mental health and can prescribe trusted medications to treat anxiety and depression if they're right for you. And it's all 100% online. If prescribed, you can get your first month of treatment for only $25 and afterwards for $85 a month, or $49 a month with a 3-month subscription. Head to forhers.com/Elyse to start a free assessment today. That's forhers.com/ELYSE. Hers makes it so simple. For example, there is no insurance required. It doesn't really get simpler than that. Get started today with a free assessment at forhers.com/Elyse. That's forhers.com/ELYSE. Offer is only available if prescribed. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. Additional restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Winter is here and the cold air can be brutal on your skin. That's why Sol de Janeiro is excited to tell you about Brazilian Boom Boom Cream, which is their moisturizing MVP. It can help you protect your skin from getting dry even on the coldest of days. Their Brazilian Boom Boom Cream has so many incredible ingredients that are also sustainably sourced, vegan, and cruelty-free. This includes the fast-absorbing cupuaçu butter, which delivers deep hydration and essential fatty acids, leaving your skin feeling silky soft, and antioxidant-packed ingredients like acai oil to help keep skin vibrant. This cream is great for whole-body skincare and can be used as part of your daily routine. Sol de Janeiro is offering our listeners 10% off on their first order on Sol de Janeiro, spelled SOLDEJANEIRO.com, and free shipping with the code Elyse. That's ELYSE to try Brazilian Boom Boom Cream for yourself with 10% off and free shipping. So I guess I'm curious to know when you moved from that 4-year terribleness, I guess, to what was the first healthy relationship that you went into after that? What was that transition like for you?
The first healthy relationship I've been in is with Jason.
Oh my God.
Let me make that clear.
Amazing. Jason is Kaitlyn's fiance, by the way. Jason is in the Bachelor world, but kind of Bachelor adjacent to Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn was the Bachelorette. Jason was not a contestant on her season. He was a contestant on another Bachelorette season, and then they connected afterwards. Okay. That's how it should be.
Well, yeah, it should. And the next I got into a couple other bad relationships, as we all do. The one definitely had another drinking problem, and he got very nasty and mean and angry. I like to drink, clearly. I like to drink, but I'm I don't have a problem.
Liking something is different than my life is unmanageable without it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I had a couple like that. And then there's the one that really rocked my world that took me 5 to 7 years to get over.
Who is this person? Who do I need to beat up?
He's married with 3 children now, and it's fine. But he was the one that that's the one that destroyed me. I loved him to my core, and I definitely ruined it. I still have nothing but great things to say about him, actually. And now looking back on it, and this is a deeper conversation, but I 1000% have PMDD.
What is PMDD?
I claim that the devil takes over my body when I am PMSing. It's premenstrual depression disorder.
Okay.
And I looked up the symptoms, and one of the symptoms actually said it can ruin relationships.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, holy crap, that was me. And
okay, really quick, according to a quick Google search, the internet says although PMS and PMDD both have physical and emotional symptoms, PMDD causes extreme mood shifts that can disrupt daily life and damage relationships. That's intense.
I was a shell of myself in this relationship by the end because he played hockey and I had to kind of move wherever he was going, and he bopped around a lot, and we ended up in Germany. And I was like, I can't speak the language. I can't get a job. I don't have friends. He was always gone playing hockey. And like, I used to love cooking and going to the grocery store. And like, I didn't even know what like certain oils were because nothing was in English. And I only had like this old phone at the time. Like I couldn't look things up. And I just became so lonely and felt useless. I was like, I'm meant to do bigger things in my life than sit in a apartment in Germany and like not know what my future is.
Yeah.
And I got really, 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 really depressed, but it was at least once a month, which now I look back on and I'm like, oh my gosh, ding, ding, ding. It was PMDD. It's clockwork. It's every month.
How long did you guys date?
3 years.
3 years. And when did you guys move to Germany and you decided like, I can't do this?
I was 27. So 10 years ago. I still, this is like, you want some headlines? I got one for you.
I want them.
I seriously think I picked Sean because he looked and reminded me of my ex.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I know that we're going so fast, so I'm going to try and give some more context. So Kaitlyn was the lead. She was the Bachelorette for season 11, and Sean was the man that she chose at the end of the season to marry. So she got engaged to Sean at the end of the show. That's the Sean that she's talking about here. Okay. That is not surprising.
Okay.
I know that it's like that. It like feels like, no, that makes all the sense in the world. It makes sense. Like your brain is just trying to like, I think, redeem that pattern of fixing it. Like you're like, because you just said yourself, like it was my fault. I ruined it kind of a thing. And it's like, so you probably were trying to fix it. I did not know I was going to therapy today. Sorry. That's amazing. I love therapy. Me too.
That's actually such a good point. I definitely blamed myself and hung on to a lot of shame for that relationship. And I thought this was my chance to like, look, I can make it right. And this can be what it should have been there. And like, and not to take away from my relationship with Sean, I deeply loved him as well. Yeah. But I definitely think that was my initial thought and why I fell in love with him.
And that honestly, like, it's probably why you stuck around for as long as you did as well.
Yes, 100%. We were together for a really long time. Like, especially in the Bachelor world, it's like usually you either get married and have babies or it's months.
Yeah. So the filming of the show, how many weeks like did you guys know each other on the actual show?
10 weeks.
Man. Okay, sorry. Just as like a Bachelorette and Bachelor viewer outside of that, it just feels like so much longer. And it's always shocking to me to hear that.
It's 10 weeks, but it's also like hours because like you're dating so many other people and you're trying to create a TV show.
Yeah.
And you're doing all these things where like your dates with them are not like real. They're like a setup date in a like fairy tale, and you are only talking about what the producers want you to talk about. And you're like,
dude.
Like, so at the end, I'll never forget, we finally were together. We were engaged. We were in this little hideout house and I had to go and he was flying home and he was like, what's your phone number? Like we just like didn't even know each other. It was wild.
And with that piece of information, my viewing experience of The Bachelor and Bachelorette will never be the same. It's wild to me that you guys dated for that short amount of time, got engaged, and then the length of time after the show that was like 3 years.
Yeah.
I had no idea you guys were engaged that long. I am living for this insider information. I have been a fan of the Bachelor franchise since I was like 13 years old. And hearing all of this information, I feel like is a little illegal. I know it's not, but I just feel like in the middle of the night tonight, the Bachelor police are going to knock down my door and be like, you know too much. We're going to wipe your brain clean. This is amazing.
Yes, we were. I know. It was a really long time if you think about it. I didn't want it to be a failed relationship out of just what personally, but also from the show. Like I was like, I don't want to be one of those like, of course another Bachelorette fails. But it was like, I actually look at that relationship as not a failure. It was like, we were really actually in love. It was just too, why am I protecting him? He was also awful.
Listen, you don't need to protect anybody here. If they were not great, just say that. It's all good.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't great either by the end.
Yeah.
And he was really not great to me. And it was really sad for me because I wanted it to work so badly.
Of course. We got to take a quick break, but we will be right back. I don't really see myself as a lots of hair products kind of person, but I am learning on my own about my natural curly hair, and that means trying a lot of things. So how happy was I when I found a product that would help me actually embrace my hair's natural texture? Very happy. I was introduced to the JVN hair care line by Jonathan Van Ness, and it works for all hair types, including mine. And I just fell in love with the brand immediately, like won't stop talking about it to friends and family, despite their repeated assurances that they get it. Level of falling in love. JVN hair care is silicone-free and powered by this unique, sustainable ingredient, hemisqualane. That's what gives your hair that healthier, frizz-free shine that we love. And for those of us with curly hair, the air dry cream is a must-have. It smells incredible, and it's made my new hair care routine with my natural curls so simple. Thank you, JVN. We love you. If you want to try JVN's air dry cream for yourself, and trust me, you definitely do, head to jvnhair.com and use code Elyse20 for 20% off air dry cream and the entire JVN hair collection. That's jvnhair.com and code Elyse20.
In 2022, we partnered with Penguin Random House to establish the Lemonada Book Club, uniting lovers of storytelling, from books to podcasts, and we have loved recommending reads that reflect the beauty and challenge of the human experience. And there's nothing more human than emotion. And this past year was full of emotions. Penguin Random House's The Year in Books explores 2022's big moods and offers the perfect books to go with them. Maybe you've been feeling blasé bliss, floating along in a state of numbness, which calls for an imaginative book to snap you out of it. Or perhaps you are channeling defiant joy, where nothing could dull your shine, and want a book filled with inspiration to keep you going and glowing. However you've been feeling, they've got a book for that. Check out The Year in Books at penguinrandomhouse.com/yearinbooks, and stay connected to our growing community of story lovers at www.lemonadabookclub.com.
I imagine you would have wanted to get out of the Bachelor world after your engagement, and you were like, the last thing I want is somebody from the Bachelor. So what, I don't know, what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, I was definitely like not wanting to like go back into the Bachelor world and date somebody from that. Not because I think I'm above it or because no one's great that comes out of that. So many great people come out of that show.
Yeah.
But I had seen so many people change from that show.
Oh, yeah.
I'm also a very competitive person. So I feel like in my life, my purpose is to have a voice.
Yeah.
And through my whole life, I had chased these guys who had so much going on for them, and I was attracted to that. But I never had my own thing going on, where now I was like, okay, this is my chance to like establish myself and like build a career and have my voice and have a podcast and like rock the shit out of this world that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have somebody else that was going to come in the way of that.
Yeah, you don't want to compete with that person in the same space.
No.
It's like it's like working the same job with someone you're dating. You don't want to work in the same company.
Right. So I selfishly didn't want to go into the Bachelor world because of that. And I think it's okay to admit that, or admit that I was selfish in that way, because I'd never done something for myself and like have felt established, or like it was just like I was doing it for me finally.
Oh, yeah.
And so then when I met Jason, it felt so different because he like is already established in what he's doing in his career. He's the VP of a bank in Seattle. And I wasn't like, I'm going to date this guy. I was just like, wow, he seems different than like a lot of guys that come off the show.
And where did you meet him?
On my podcast.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I had him as a guest.
I want to go back and listen.
Yeah. That's why he proposed on the podcast, because he was like, that's where it all started.
That's too much.
I know.
That's actually too much.
I know, but at least I didn't even like him when I just kept thinking like, oh, this guy's going to be like really good for somebody, or he should be the Bachelor. Like that's what I kept thinking.
When he was talking, did you think he was like cute, or you were like, this is great info, that's it?
Yeah, I thought he was cute, but like I wasn't like, ooh, I'm into this.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh, I think we might be friends. Like, oh my God. That's what it was. And he left the podcast recording and called his mom and said, I think I just met my wife. And I called my friend and said,
Chills.
I think they need to make that guy the Bachelor.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. That's the best. So as we all have previously discussed, roast beef was mainly on my mind after Jonas and I met.
It's been actually a challenging thing in our relationship is now navigating a hard boundary that I set at the beginning for myself and a very big non-negotiable that I didn't want to be with somebody in this world. And now he's like head first, like deep diving into it. And it's hard, but like obviously you want to be together. So that's not going to ruin our relationship.
What did that look like at the beginning? Like, were you kind of honest with him and were like, hey, I don't actually want to date someone in the Bachelor world, so this is going to have to be perfect. Like, what did those conversations look like?
Like when I first started having feelings for him, I was like, no.
I don't receive that. No, thank you.
Yeah, but the thing was, he was not in that world yet. And he was still going to work every day, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Like now I know that he was miserable doing that job and he's actually doing things that he wants to be doing now. So it's great. And I'm the whole reason, well, he wanted to leave his job, but I am a big reason that he left because I'm inappropriate. I say inappropriate things on my podcast all the time. And I
were you like a liability to his his business career type situation?
I was, because I talked about dry humping him while I was on my period and how he like, and then his boss was like, hey, have you Googled yourself lately? And I love how Jason was like, no, even though he has like Google notifications if he gets tagged and anything, it's like on.
He's like, I don't even know what Google is. He's like, I've never even heard of Google. Who's Google?
Yeah, who's Google? So I was with him when his boss called and they were like, kind of like, you have to pick like what life you're going to live here because we can't have like the VP of our bank making headlines like this.
Really?
He's like, this bank is run by a woman and this is my girlfriend talking about being on her period, which happens to every woman.
Like,
and
why is that embarrassing?
Yeah, I didn't think it was.
That's why, honestly, I think that I connected with you so well was because you are so unapologetic about who you are that it makes me feel proud to be who I am because you are who you are. And like, I think that the moment we can kind of get to that place where we feel like we don't have to change who we are, what we look like, what we say, our personality, the way we smell. Like we don't have to change those things about ourselves to be loved and listened to. Like, especially as women, like, I think that as a woman, I have felt this pressure to be put together, to be listened to. And I am so over that. Like, if you don't want to listen to what I have to say, then don't listen. But I am just going to say it. And like,
that's your choice, not mine.
Yes. And like for you, with you and with Jason, like watching you two together is so cool. It's just very powerful for me because you two are very separate people.
Yeah, very.
That have chosen to be in a relationship together and have chosen each other. And like, do you think that there's a part of this relationship that's successful because you met now? Like if you met Jason 10 years ago, would it have been successful? Or what does that look like at the beginning of it? Where you're like, I'm confident in who I am.
Yeah, you know what? I was the most confident in myself before I went on The Bachelor. I was like, I had done so much work on myself because of that relationship that ended. Like that was like such a hard process for me to go through. It was like grieving somebody and
the hockey player, you mean?
Life. Yeah. I was like grieving a person and a life that I thought I was going to have and all these things. And I was so depressed and I had to work so hard at building myself back up. And I went to therapy so much and I like really got myself back on my feet. Like, because when we broke up, I didn't have a job. I didn't have $5 to my name.
Oh my
I didn't have an education. I didn't have a plan. I had nothing. And at the age of 27, you think like, what? I'm such a loser. And so I really had to build myself up. I was at a point where I literally was like, I'm going on The Bachelor and this guy's going to fall in love with me because I am awesome. And then the show kind of broke me down again, you know, having all these eyes on me and I started getting insecure again.
You're like, watch this confident queen walk into The Bachelor and kill it. And it's like next minute, you're like, I have never been more depressed in my life.
Yes, that was literally me. I was like, I came out of that limo guns blazing being like, watch out, everybody. Here she comes.
Oh my gosh.
But I got back to that point and yeah, it just felt like at this point in my life, I feel like I'm like in a place to have a successful relationship because I have established who I am as a human being in work, in my life. I'm okay with being insecure. I think that's part of life.
I love that.
I'm like okay with all these things now instead of like feeling like if I was insecure in my other relationships, I'd be like, what's wrong with me? And why am I doing this? And why am I behaving this way? Where now I'm like, of course, like this makes so much sense. And you're a human being and you're allowed to be insecure. Who isn't? Like, it's okay.
I think that so you saying like, I'm okay with being insecure. I think that's something that people don't actually understand. It's like, they feel insecurity and they think, I have to fix this.
Yeah.
When actually it's like, you just have to be secure with being insecure. Like,
yes,
you're a human being.
Yeah.
You are going to perceive things in the world that is going to like affect your confidence. So it's not the fact that like you're going to feel that way. It's like, what do you do after you feel that way?
Yeah.
For you with Jason, I guess, what would be the biggest thing that you've taken away from this healthy relationship compared to the relationships that you've had in the past?
I think I've always been afraid of change in relationships or people changing and I never looked at it in a way of like, it could be just growth and you can grow together and you can go through like seasons in your own relationship because I do see how much things can change. Like if we all look back on the last 2 years of our life, how much has changed. It's wild.
I think that there is something so beautiful about being with somebody so long that you both get to change together. I don't know if I expected that to be one of my favorite things about being in a relationship because earlier in my life, I thought I had to just become this perfect person before I got married so I could be the perfect spouse. Now, being in marriage for about 4 years, I've learned that even 4 years down the road, like we are different people than when we met, than when we got engaged, than when we got married, than when we had our first kid. We have become different people along that journey together. And it's really, really special that you both get to champion each other on at each big life event like that. Having a safe person in Jonas where I know I'm not going to run away from this, we are going to do this together is a very powerful thing. And I'm just beyond grateful for a partner like him. So, love you, Jonas. We're different people than we went into like 2019.
It's so true, all of us. And I think it's like so important to know that like so much can change and that is okay. And we can go through seasons in the relationship and in our own selves and still choose each other. And you don't always have to just like live in fear of a relationship failing because of that. Like all of my relationships, I've just been in fear because what if I change or what if they change and what if they don't stand by me when I'm going through a rough season or like, what if this is too hard on them? And what if it's too hard on me? Where this one, it's like, it feels like we've already like committed to that choice of like going through the seasons together.
This person's going to stick it out with you.
Yeah.
He's like here.
Totally.
And then I have one more question that I didn't plan this, but I just like was really curious. What are you most excited for, I guess, in the next year? Or like, what is something that you're like, I really want to do this or can't wait to do this, something you're really looking forward to?
I'm really excited because I've worked so hard on Spade and Sparrows. Like I did not realize how hard that was going to be to build a wine brand because I didn't want to slap my name on something and like call it mine. And so I was like, no, I want to like create this wine myself and I want to be on every business call and I want to get like my own business education just from being on these calls and I want to learn everything. And I'm really excited because I think we're going to start being in retail and like able for people to just go to like to the grocery store. And we just signed with like a huge distributor and I'm just so excited.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Kaitlyn. It's been an honor to talk.
Thank you for having me. Truly, you're amazing. That started my day off right. Let me tell you what.
I love you.
I love you.
Oh my gosh, we did it. This was the very first interview that we ever did for Funny 'Cause It's True. And I will never forget how nervous I was. I was shaking the entire time. I was so grateful that Kaitlyn's face loaded up in my Zoom screen and she was the first person I was tackling this with. And sometimes I forget that we've never met in person because we just talk so much and also we connect so well that I genuinely forget we've never met in person. So we are going to have to make that happen. eventually. Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Kaitlyn. And make sure to check out her podcast, Off the Vine, wherever you're listening right now. If you want more Funny 'Cause It's True, just subscribe to Lemonada Premium on Apple Podcasts for some exclusive bonus content. Funny 'Cause It's True is a Lemonada Media and Powder Keg production. The show is produced by Claire Jones, Zoe Dennis, Nancy Rosenbaum, and Linnea Tony. Our associate producer is Tiffany Bowie. Rachel Neal is our senior director of new content, and our VP of weekly production is Steve Nelson. Executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax, Jessica Cordova-Kramer, Paul Feig, Laura Fisher, Kesla Childers, and me, Elyse Myers. The show is mixed by Brian Castillo and Johnny Vince Evans. Additional help from Noah Smith and Ivan Karayev. Our theme song music was written by me and scored by Xander Singh.
Hey, Lemonada listeners, we want to hear from you. You know we love our sponsors for a ton of reasons, but one of the main ones is that they help us keep the lights on. And there's a really easy way that you can help us draw new advertisers and hear ads for things you're most interested in. Filling out our quick anonymous survey at lemonadamedia.com/survey. By just answering a few questions, you can help us find new brands to connect with and also share feedback about show content you'd like to see across the network. And to sweeten the deal, once you've completed the survey, you can enter for a chance to win a $100 Visa gift card. I promise the survey is short and sweet and will help us play ads you don't want to skip and also keep bringing you content you love. Just go to lemonadamedia.com/survey. The Webby Award-winning series Untold Story is back for Season 3. With host Trayvon Free, this season explores criminal injustice in places like Rikers Island. How have conditions there created a humanitarian crisis right in plain sight in America? With leadership failing to keep detainees safe, Trayvon speaks with criminal justice reformers, activists, and attorneys on how we can enact change throughout communities. All 3 episodes of The Untold Story Criminal Injustice from Lemonada Media are out now, wherever you get your podcasts. Casts.